Hello, and welcome to Folkcraft. I'm your host, Temperance Alden. So, today we're going to be talking about Spanish moss, mainly because I fucking love Spanish moss. I love Spanish moss so much. And when we talk about folk magic, folk craft, folk practice, um, we really have to get into the regionality of the craft, of the practice. Folk magic is different location to location. It doesn't matter what tradition it's stemming out of. It doesn't matter if you have an Italian or an Irish or Filipino background. Really, at the end of the day, it matters where you are and what you have around you. I live in the South, and it is full of Spanish moss down here. Now, I can't say the scientific name. I have pulled it up in front of me for the shits and giggles. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to say it right now, and just know that I'm saying it wrong. Um, so the scientific name of this plant is Tillandsia, and I'm going to read the second word based off the phonetic guide. Usneoides. It's spelled Usneoides. However you say it, we all know it as Spanish moss. When you think of Spanish moss, you think like the big old like oak trees and stuff in the south that are just dripping in this plant. Now, Spanish moss is not actually a moss, it's a bromeliad. Um, this is a very unique plant that doesn't take water from the roots, and it is also not parasitic. That's like one of those myths that I've heard all over South Florida in my time here, is that that you have to remove this plant because it could like strangle trees. It can't. It's not parasitic. It's most of the time not going to harm whatever that it is hanging off. It's pretty much an air plant. It has a small little like what you would consider a root cluster that kind of attaches it to the tree. The tree gives this plant support, stability. The Spanish moss takes in water from the air, and it's a harbor for biodiversity. It's a really fantastic plant. It's a host to a number of insects and animals. It helps most of the trees that it's attached to. So, and it's very drought resistant. And in the south, we can have really, really hot periods. So this is a really, really great plant. When we're talking about magic and we're talking about magical allies and regional magic and spirits within that regional area, I'd be remiss if I didn't say Spanish moss, and that's why Spanish moss is going to be the very first plant I talk about. It is native to the area that I'm in, and it is so wonderful to have as an ally in your magical craft. I like Spanish moss. It grows right outside my front door. I didn't have to go hunt it down or anything, but if I needed to hunt it down, you could really just Spanish moss has two ways that it grows. It can grow from a seed, or it can kind of like pop out these little pups, I believe they're called, and kind of clone itself that way and create a new little Spanish moss plant. So, you if you needed to get Spanish moss, you can order it online, you can grow it. It doesn't really matter. You can take the Spanish moss in its natural setting. Don't take it into your house. I wouldn't take it into my house, mainly because I don't have the right climate for it. Spanish moss doesn't get watered like a normal plant does. It really does need to be outside in that humid air. If you have some place to keep it humid inside your house, that's your business. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But Spanish moss is great for when we are working with community and when we are working with helping and healing our friends, families, people that surround us, strengthening those bonds. It can be used to kind of bind things together. Spanish moss in nature does that. So, this is a little bit of UPG. This has been my personal experience with the plant, is that when I'm working to kind of connect people together, make situations more cohesive for everyone involved, Spanish moss has been a wonderful ally for that kind of work, mainly because that's the function that it serves in nature. And when we're looking at plants that don't have traditional classical correspondences, we kind of look to that. What purpose do they serve when they're in nature? What family of plants does it come out of? We know Spanish moss, again, it's a bromeliad. So you could use it for the classical bromeliad correspondence. However, most bromeliads don't look like this one. So I don't like to use those correspondences. I like to really look at, okay, what does this plant do? How can I apply that? And the spirit of that plant really comes through when you're working with larger groups of people, more than two people. When you're working with larger groups that really need to come together, see everything eye to eye, be cohesive, function as a unit, this is a great plant ally to call upon and to work with. Spanish moss has a ton of cool history, like it has for a long time. Um, there's a wonderful article I found from the bromeliads.info instead of .com, it's .info. But they talk about how bromeliad was used, specifically Spanish moss was used and commercially harvested for mattresses. It apparently kept them very cool. I'd be interested to know that. Unfortunately, I don't have that kind of bed, but I do love that. So this is just, the first plant that I really wanted to hone in on and say, props to that plant. It actually does do a lot. It's very good. If you see it hanging out in the wild, let it hang, let it do its thing. It's not hurting anyone. It's not hurting any trees. They're not heavy. I don't know if any of you guys have ever held Spanish moss, but it's not heavy at all. So it's not harming the tree in that way. If you can let it be, if it's not causing any issues, just let it be, let it do its thing. Talk to it, forge that relationship with it, invest in the plant, and it'll invest back in you. So that is my little talk on Spanish moss. If you'd like to support the show, I'll be doing 1 to 2 podcasts a week here on Folkcraft, where I talk about little elements of folk magic or discuss trending topics within the community. I have a Patreon, Wild Woman Witchcraft, and I'm on Instagram at Wild Woman Witchcraft. My book Year of the Witch is available everywhere books are sold. I'm on Twitter as Temperance Alden. I'm on Twitch as Tempora Apples. And other than that, I'm sure I have more channels. You probably maybe even found this through my YouTube channel because I'm going to be posting it there. Regardless, thank you so much for being here today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Have a great night, weekend, evening, morning, wherever you are. Have a great one.